episode 77 of the S&D Podcast show. Got another fun-filled week for everybody. Dan, what's up?
Not much. Another fun-filled week. Like you just mentioned, we're going to have Dan on from Hockey Buzz, and also the SNDPODCAST.com. Thanks for everybody that has signed up for our newsletter. Our first one came out earlier this week, so thanks for everybody that checked it out. Hope everybody enjoyed it. A bunch of new articles hopefully coming up sometime later this week as well. Thanks for all our writers for writing such good articles. Thank you for everybody enjoying them as well. What else is going on this week, Steve?
USA's out. Soccer's over.
Yeah, unfortunately, USA is out. But honestly, it was a great one for them, especially with the pool of death or whatever they call it. But it really is just hopefully this grows the sport of soccer or football, a lot of people call it. Hopefully that starts the trend upward for this country. Why are we the only country that doesn't enjoy the sport? Something's wrong with that, obviously. But let's see what happens. Maybe it's just an every 4-year kind of thing. It is what it is. But honestly, it was fun to root for Team USA for those 4 games. So we'll see what happens with that. A lot of hockey moves, and NBA is still a little quiet. The Melo hunt and the LeBron hunt has been going on. Every time I look at anything in the NBA, they have a Photoshop version of Carmelo Anthony in another jersey. So it is what it is. So it is. I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see what happens with.
Let him do his tour.
Yeah, let him do his tour.
He's never had this experience.
Exactly. So. He hasn't had this experience in college. So see what happens with that.
Let him go do what he wants. The interesting news came out today that Chris Bosh, opted out, but he wants the max contract.
Yeah.
She's not going to get if they go back as a big 3.
Obviously. So that's a little earth-shattering news right there. So let's see what happens when let's see what happens. That's going to be really interesting to see who and what and where. What's going to happen on that? So I don't know. I'm very interested to see what would it take to make some moves going on right there. So what do you I have no idea, especially what happened it's going to be 4 summers ago. What happened 4 summers ago? 5 summers ago.
4 summers ago.
It's going to be interesting to see what exactly is going to go down.
Honest opinion is, like I've mentioned to you and a couple other people, LeBron ends up taking a 1-year, second-year option to stay in Miami. Mm-hmm. Then basically to watch how Kyrie Irving, who just got a 5-year, $90 million deal from Cleveland to stay there, mm-hmm. and Wiggins work together. Wiggins get the year of NBA play.
Of course.
As we've seen in the past, first overall picks, it happens. He wants to make sure Wiggins is the real deal this level. Everybody's seen him in college.
Of course, yeah.
So let them play together, then he's going to end up back in Cleveland. It's just a matter of time. But the question is, does Wiggins want to stay in Cleveland after they introduced him as Mitchell Wiggins?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those, what the hell am I doing here kind of thing. But honestly, with how everything's going to be, I don't know. The NBA is holding me by a string, and if one stupid agency move here or there by the Knicks or a super team is created with LaMelo and LeBron and Wade, it is going to lose a lot of people's interest, because that's what's happening with the players wanting to play on the same team, is that the talent on other teams are being very lackluster, and a lot of people are just very disinterested, and they don't really want to watch the games anymore, to be honest with you. And honestly, do you blame them? I don't.
Nobody wants to watch basketball.
Not at all, especially if that's the case.
The only team that will never be considered a super team is the Spurs.
Pretty much. And that's what's scary about it.
That is what's scary. A lot of NHL news. Islanders, we're going to talk to Dan in a little bit about that as he joins us to talk about them, as well as Tim Howard and Team USA. Their incredible run this year. So stay tuned. Listen to more With a Vengeance by Division 1.1. While you're listening to it, check out SNDPODCAST.com. Sign up for the newsletter so you can get it every month. Keep up to date with us. Make sure to check out all the articles on there as well. As well as we have added a little widget on there. You can listen to each week's episode from the podcast directly on the website. Even when you change pages, it will still be working. So you never have to worry about changing a page and losing your spot and having to start over on the show.
Yeah.
So let's play a little more With a Vengeance, and we'll be right back. Episode 77 of the S&D Podcast show. Steven and Dan here. And now we would like to welcome back our good friend from HockeyBuzz.com, Dan. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, Dan. How's it going tonight?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. 2 times in the span of the last 2 weeks.
It's been a very busy couple of weeks for me, so I'm glad we're able to talk a little more hockey tonight and some soccer as well. It'll be fun.
Very exciting. Well, the Islanders are trying to make a splash to get over the cap floor, which they actually did today with a couple of signings. But before we get into the signings, I've been hearing rumors that they may actually look to sign Tim Howard because he's so used to standing on his head during games and not getting any goal support.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, he was brilliant yesterday. He was really good. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't get the W, but we'll get into that. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I have some thoughts on that. But yeah, it was. It wasn't the best World Cup for the United States, but it was certainly entertaining. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Definitely. So let's go right into it. We've signed, I believe, a whole line, if you really want to think about it.
Whole line and a guy from AHL.
And an AHL guy who was number 4 in scoring last year, might I add, in the American Hockey League.
Okay.
So you got to hope that kind of moves into the next level.
Or Jeff Tambellini all over
again. Jeff Tambellini all over again. What's your thought on the move so far, Dan?
Well, TJ Brennan's a defenseman, so, 70-something points as a defenseman, you can't ignore that. I've seen Brennan play a lot. He really impressed me a few years ago when he was playing for Portland. And he has talent. He's never really translated into the NHL, but he hasn't played that many games in the NHL as well. He's not the best in his own end, but I don't mind the risk when it comes to him. I think he could be a bottom pairing defenseman and a power play specialist, and I wouldn't mind giving that a shot if he comes into camp, and we'll see what happens. When it comes to him and Conacher, they're low risk, high reward kind of guys. You're kind of trying to hit home runs there, and you see what happens. They're only 1-year deals. They're under $1 million, so if they miss on those, I don't think it's the end of the world. Today they really, really addressed the forward spot, adding Grabowski and Kuhlman. And for the first time I can remember, there's depth on this team. There's legitimate options on this team. Not quite sure what the lines are going to look like, but there's definite options. There's definitely things they can do. With Grabowski, because he can play wing as well. Kuhlman's good defensive forward, has some offensive ability. He's underachieved offensively the last couple of years, but maybe in a bigger role, he might be able to, find the 30 goals he had a few years ago. But he's sound defensively. And he's a big body, he finishes his hits. So very interesting what they did today. They definitely put it was a very quiet day when it came to signings after the frenzy that was yesterday, but I took a little of the spotlight away and put it on the Long Island today, and I really do like what they did. And it's nice that, like I said, that they were aggressive. I also like Johnson. I think they have the best goaltending duo they've had in a long time in Long Island. So you have to be really encouraged. And now, like I said, they have depth and they have options, and they can use some of the excess they have at forwards, because they have too many forwards, to bring in the top 4 defensemen. That's going to be the next move.
Okay. So after all the reaction from Islanders Twitter yesterday, hashtag Islanders Twitter, what was the reactions today? A little bit better, nicer today, or as always, a little crankier?
You always have your few curmudgeons, but I think overall, definitely yesterday was the fan base was pretty low. I was trying to warn the fan base too, don't expect miracles. Keep it realistic. Someone asked me what they were going to do yesterday, and I said a backup goalie they would definitely sign, and I actually targeted TJ Brennan and Corey Conacher as Garth Snow kind of reclamation projects, and I was 2 for 2 on those. I didn't think they both were going to sign yesterday, but I said those are guys that definitely to keep an eye on. So, but yeah, after yesterday, obviously people want shiny new things. They want to run down the stairs. Islander fans want to run down the stairs like the rest of the league on July 1st and act like it's Christmas morning. But for the most part, in recent history, we run down the stairs and realize we're Jewish when we get down there, and there's no shiny new toys for us. So I think definitely the Kuhlman and Grabowski signings today have been widely regarded, and everybody's kind of fired up now. And there's definitely some buzz going around with the team, and if they can just grab a defenseman, who knows, maybe 2, but they have the assets to make the moves now. This could be a pretty good team next year.
Okay. As you said, with the assets, if you were Garth Snow, who would get you that top 4 defenseman, and which pairing would that be?
I think it depends on the player that you're getting back. I think you have 3 tradable assets that 3 levels of tradable assets. I think Bailey or Grabner can get you a solid defenseman back. I think Franz Nielsen might be able to get you a top pairing defenseman back. And now you might not want to trade Franz Nielsen, but if you can get, and I know there's a lot of teams with some serious cap problems. If you can get Johnny Boychuk off the Bruins and it costs Franz Nielsen, I think you have to consider it. I think you have to do it, actually. So it all depends on the players. Like, I know I've heard Chicago they're looking to move Nick Leddy or Johnny Oduya. Now, I wouldn't trade Franz Nielsen for them, but you might be able Grabner or Bailey or a combination or some picks in the prospect. Maybe, one of the defensemen they have right now, like a Donovan or something, and one of those 2 players might get one of those players back. So there's definitely lots of options here. It's just a matter of, the trade might not happen right away, but all summer, Garth's going to be looking for the right deal. So it's just a matter of what happens. And I'm not, some people have been thinking I want Franz Nielsen off the island. I don't. But if the right deal is there, it has to be considered. With that being said, I would prefer to keep Nielsen, and I think you have a lot of options for this lineup next year. Options that they haven't had in a long time. Also, the best thing about today is it took pressure off the kids. The signings today took pressure off of Strome, Nelson, and Lee. You can't expect all of them are going to be. Well, first of all, you can't expect all 3 to pan out. Law averages would suggest they won't. But this definitely takes some pressure off of them. Because if there was no safety net for those kids and it didn't work out or they struggled, next season could have been disastrous. But it looks like they have some depth right now. So I'm pretty encouraged. Right, the first couple of days here, they had a good draft. Getting Halak signed before the draft, it's been a couple of good weeks here.
I also agree with you about the goalie 10, though. I'm very excited to see. Johnson was a reliable guy in Boston behind Tuch last year, and I'm actually excited because, like every other Island fan, I'm hoping he gets number 85. Just we think it'd be cool.
Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco. Yeah, that's funny. Gotcha.
Like, I know people who were tweeting at Ocho Cinco welcoming him to the Islanders.
That's even funnier. I had not seen that.
So it's going to be fun to have him around. But like you did say, it probably is the best 2 goalie tandem we've had since arguably Osgood and Snow.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, probably.
So,
I was thinking about it, and that seems about right. Yeah.
All right, Dan. Where do they go from here, though?
Well, they have to, like I said, they have to address the defense, and there's definitely going to be a trade that has to get made, and they have the assets to do it. They actually have depth now. They can move 1 or 2 forwards, and they have too many guys. So they have the 16 forwards signed now, and 9 or 10 defensemen on one-way deals. So they're going to have to clean up some space and clean up some room. Maybe you pack it. They might actually have enough assets to get 2 defensemen to come back. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Like I said, the biggest thing here is it's taking the pressure off the young kids. If they bring in a top 4 defenseman and another solid, maybe bottom pairing defenseman, then maybe Griffin Reinhart starts in Bridgeport like he probably should, regardless of how ready he may or think he is, or we might want to see him. It could be a natural progression of if these kids want to play in the NHL coming up in October, they're going to have to clearly win spots in training camp. I think they will. I think most of them will. I think Lee, Strome, and Nelson, I think they're going to come ready to play, and I think there's going to be some fire in that training camp, which is great because competition's a good thing. Now, the guys who shouldn't be a little worried, like I said, Grabner or Bailey could be moved. I know preferably they would rather keep Grabner and move Bailey. The guys who might want to be a little worried about their role in this team are some of the bottom 6 forwards, like a Colin McDonald or Matt Martin.
Absolutely, especially with the added depth. So those guys are great guys, but they're not the guys that are going to be able to put the puck in the net every now and then. So it's really going to be interesting. It's going to be clearly a number game, and if the Islanders want to go with that talented youth that they want to go to, or they want to go with grit. What else is going on in hockey land that you were pretty surprised with yesterday? I wouldn't be shocked if there's another lockout in a couple of years, especially with players getting the money they got, especially Pouliot, thanks to a hot playoff series on that. A bunch of other players, just baffling. What do you think else is going on so far?
Well, before we get to the contracts, one more thing with the Islanders, because they did something they normally don't do, and they haven't done with a while for in a long time. They actually spent some money for Bridgeport. They usually just put their prospects down there, and they just let them find their way. They actually brought in a goalie down there, Dave Liego. They brought in a couple forwards, formerly Cale Mulray, who played for the Sound Tigers a few years ago. He's a solid AHL player. Jack Skilly, former first overall pick, who really hasn't panned out, but he's a good AHL player. So now you're going to actually have some veteran leadership down there, too, with the kids that are down there. And I think that's going to make for a pretty good team down there. So that was actually kind of surprising that they do that, because normally the Islanders do not spend money for Bridgeport when it comes to veteran players. As for the rest of the league, yeah, obviously the contracts are insane and ludicrous. I keep joking, has Brooks Orpik been bought out yet? Because that contract was just terrible. And it's not so much the money. It's not so much the money with most of these guys. It's the length. Yeah. Orpik is slowing down. He's getting older, and you give him, 5 years? That's a long time. It's one thing. It seems like your puck-moving defensemen play longer in the league. Look at guys like Dan Boyle, because they can still skate. And even if they still slow down a little bit, they're still pretty effective. But some of the bigger, more lumbering type of defensemen, once they start to lose the step, they're out of the league pretty fast. So I was surprised by that. I like Matt Niskanen. I don't like him for 7 years. And, the Benoit Pouliot one was interesting. Mark Fane got a lot. One thing we learned today is if you have kids, teach them how to be a defenseman or a center, because there's such a need for it. It's like left-handed pitching. If you have kids, have them be defensemen or centers, because if they're good, they're going to be very rich when they get older.
Now, you mentioned Dan Boyle, who, as all Islander fans know, was traded for, I think it was a 5th rounder we gave up for him.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
That's right. That's right.
And people were wondering where was he going to go July 1st, and he ended up being one of the first group of guys that were picked up, and he ended up on the Rangers. Now, personally, I understand why you would go to the Rangers at the age of 38. You're looking to win a cup at that age. Islander fans don't see it that way. How do you see it, Dan?
I mean, it's his choice. That's when whenever the fan base gets mad about, oh, why didn't they sign this guy? Why didn't they sign it? They make offers, but it's ultimately the player's choice, and the players earn the right for that. They have no choice of where they come into this league. So when they earn free agency, it's their right. I am actually surprised he chose, the Rangers over a couple other options that he had. Tampa looked like a good situation for him, and Detroit looked like a good situation. Detroit got turned down a lot yesterday, which was kind of interesting. But I don't particularly have a problem with it. Yeah, he went to the Rangers. He thinks he could, he thinks that they're going to be in a better spot to be successful next year. But I mean, they didn't have the best day yesterday, and they have some cap issues, and they have some serious holes in their lineup now too. So I mean, I wouldn't be penciling them back in to go to the conference finals. I mean, they still look like a playoff team, but they got a lot of work to do too before the season starts.
I agree, and also, of course, the Islander Nation, Twitter, and everybody are now thinking Dan Boyle should have his head taken off because he made a decision.
No.
So, it's like you said, it is his decision. The Islanders make offers. The same thing happened with Vanek during the season. They made him an offer. He said no. They moved him.
Right.
They can't just because they make an offer doesn't say the guy is going to be guaranteed. Even they said Iginla was, I think 4
years. I'll be honest with you. I would not have been happy if he signed with the Islanders for 4 years. I would not have loved that. He still has plenty in the tank, and you probably get 2 good years out of him. But man, that would have been a lot. So, but that's what you got to do. That's what the Islanders have to do right now to get free agents in. You got to give them maybe an extra year. You have to give them, Kuhlman probably got $2 million per year too much, and Grabowski probably got $1.5 million too much. But who cares? When you can't get anyone in here, if that's what you have to do, the Islanders are in a position where they can overpay someone by 20-25%. It's fine.
I agree, 100%.
I agree too.
And they
They need a culture change.
Yeah, and they offered.
Yeah, you want people signing it here. When we bring them in. It doesn't matter. It's not our money.
Exactly.
If you keep yelling, you can yell and scream to spend money, but then when they do, don't whine about it. It's fine. They got to spend money. Like I said, they probably paid about 25% too much. They probably gave them an extra year too much. But the contracts aren't that ludicrous where if they don't work out, they can move them. It's fine. They needed to get depth in this lineup. They got some players who have some significant talent today. I think they're better. I'll just ask the question: are the Islanders a better team today? The answer is yes, and that's fine. Now we can look at some of the signings yesterday, and you can ask yourself: is the Washington Capitol defense better today? I don't know. So if the answer is I don't know, then you can really look at those. You can look at those signings and kind of shake your head a little bit. Same thing with Edmonton. Is the Edmonton defense better after they threw all this money to two pretty good players, not great players? I don't know. So that's if the question. If the answer is I don't know, then you can definitely critique it. But if the answer is yes, then who cares what they got?
Correct. And like I said to my friend about the Orpig deal, it's just proof that teams like Washington are run by idiots.
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be fun when Ovechkin's not back-checking again and all that other fun stuff. So the Caps got to figure something out. It's crazy how they have such a talented team, but they're able to break down like they normally do. So
they're really not that talented. They have high-end talent. They have ultra high-end talent, but they don't have a lot of organizational depth, and they're pretty thin especially with their forwards. They're pretty thin after the first line. It's kind of like smoke and mirrors. They're an elite team on the power play, but 5-on-5 they're terrible. Their defense is okay. Alsner and Karlsson haven't become the players I thought they would be. Karlsson's been good, and he's getting better, but Alsner hasn't projected the way I thought he would, especially when I saw him earlier in his career. And the goaltending situation still in flux and weird. And you had Halak there, who's a pretty good goalie. Why didn't you just keep him? I don't quite understand. There's definitely they're kind of going around in circles a little bit for me. It's just that I don't know if the organization has just structure right now. And for once, it's nice talking about another team like that instead of ours.
Absolutely. One last player who thinks that they are supposed to get a bigger contract or just any team's interested. Any talk of Martin Brodeur going anyplace else other than New Jersey? Since it's very weird to even think about that.
Yeah, he's not coming. He's not coming back.
Well,
to
he's
New
not
Jersey.
coming back to Jersey.
I've heard Toronto. I've heard Pittsburgh as well, but nothing concrete yet. He's got to leave. If he wants to go somewhere else, he has to leave his ego at the door, and that seems to be a problem right now. It's like, Marty, wherever you're going, you're not starting 60 games. You're probably going to start 25 or 30, and if you want to keep playing, that's what you have to do right now. So, I mean, he can't go into Toronto thinking he's going to split time with Bernier.
Absolutely.
Or go into Pittsburgh. Well, with Fleury, I don't know if that would be the best matchup. I know that would be interesting. Pittsburgh seems to be having some issues as well too. They got Ehrhoff yesterday, which was nice, but there's a lot of question marks on that team too. If you look at the teams that really did well yesterday, they loaded up. They're all in the West. The West is really getting better right now. And you look at the East, and they're signing players, but look, just make the playoffs. The Rangers showed that. Just make the playoffs, and you can make a run in the Eastern Conference. The West is a battle. It's a war of attrition and survival. So it's nice. The Islanders are actually in the East right now. But I like what Columbus has done recently. I really like what Dallas did yesterday. I think Jason Spezza on the second line center really added some depth there. I think Dallas did a nice job. Colorado did a nice job. So there was some. Calgary did a nice job yesterday too. The Panthers spent a ton of money. I'm not sure what to make of all of it. I don't dislike some of the players they brought in, but they did get some veteran leadership to go around with some fantastic prospects. So they all stay healthy. That might be an interesting team to watch for as well this year too.
Who did they give up for Spezza anyway?
The Stars.
Stars.
Chason, a pick, and a couple. I think another minor league player. I don't remember the third player in the deal.
Okay.
So the big piece was Alex Chason.
I feel like with Florida, it's just going to be the same thing like every year. they'll bring in guys in a couple years from now.
Before in the past, they spent a ton of money quickly. 1 year they made the playoffs, but if you look at their prospects, they are loaded with prospects, and they're loaded down the middle. Barkov, Bustad, Huberdeau. They have, Quentin Howden looks like a good player. They have some just really, and then they have Ekblad now. They have some really nice pieces down there, and you surround them with the guys like David Bolin. They could be up to something there. I'm not gonna say they're gonna make the playoffs or anything next year, but I think they're gonna be significantly better.
It's just like Edmonton, though, but with the draft picks and just keep getting prospect after prospect after prospect, and
but Edmonton has too much of the same player. A lot of their players, like Nugent Hopkins and Everly, are like very similar. They have so many like small. They got rid of Gagne finally, who I actually like in Arizona, but they have too many of the smallish forward, and they had no defense, and they're trying to address that as well. But there's still some issues there and growing pains there. They have some prospects on defense that are, a little bit down the road, but they're in the West too, so it's it's harder to get back to relevancy in the West. So they got their work cut out for them.
All right, so the draft was last Friday. We'll keep talking about the free agents. Islanders got two guys. Everyone thinks the second guy, Sang Ho, is a little... Hosang, Sang Ho, Hosang... Tomato. They say he's too cocky. But you know what? I actually like his confidence in himself.
The Islanders need that. They need that attitude adjustment, though.
He flat out said that he is going to be the best player in this draft in a couple of years from now. He's basically what my friend said, and I agreed with him, a Kriller Kabanov with the mindset of being good. Not the I'm just going to go play and have fun and be a goof. What's your take on that, Dan?
There is zero comparison between Kriller Kabanov and Joshua Hosang. None. Zero. Kabanov was considered lazy, a locker room distraction, unmotivated, didn't want to work hard on the ice, didn't want to work hard off the ice. You have not heard one thing, any of those words that I just used, in comparison with Hosang. Maybe he's a little too selfish. Maybe he doesn't pass enough. Maybe he's overconfident. The funny thing is, I saw this tweet on Twitter, and this is how I've been describing it, and I think we'll probably leave it at this. In other sports, character flaws are getting arrested, flunking out of school, killing somebody, drugs, DWI. In hockey, character flaws are he's a little too cocky. So I'll take that. I'm fine with that. You get him in the locker room here with guys like John Tavares, Kyle Oposo. If the talent matches his mouth, he'll be fine. The work ethic's there. He wants to be the best. So I have no problems. Now, if they move that down and that was their only pick in the first round, okay, maybe I'm a little more skeptical. But the fact they took Dal Cole at 5, who looks like to be a fantastic prospect, and then moved back in and got Hosang, that I am more than fine with that. I actually really like it. You already have one safety net here who you think can be a good prospect. It's a safe pick. He was the 5th-rated prospect, the highest-rated goal-scoring prospect in the draft, and then you move back in. You try. I never have a problem trying to hit a home run. The draft is very hard to project. So if you think you have a home run swing on a player, go for it.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I think a little bit has to do with a little bit of racially profiling him a little bit as well. At times, because players.
Well, he's interesting.
That's a much bigger deal in Canada than it is down in the United States. Get him down here, get him in Bridgeport, get him in Brooklyn. He'll be fine. He'll be loved. People love that around here. Cocky and arrogant is a good thing around here.
Absolutely.
And if you actually look it up, he's actually not even any Chinese. He is part African American, part Jewish, and part Canadian.
Wow.
There you go.
Yep. What a hat trick.
He'll fit in perfectly in Brooklyn.
Yeah, he'll be fine. I have no problem swinging for the fences. I like the 2 goalies. They drafted 2 more goalies. The way that I am not a fan of drafting a goalie in the first round, as are most people in the league now. So you get to the second day, you draft a couple goalies, and you hope you hit a home run on one of them. It's the hardest position to project. So hopefully they hit a home run with one of them. The funny thing is, a couple of the kids they did draft, I've seen play a lot. Devin Taves was a freshman at Quinnipiac, and I'm a Quinnipiac University alum and go to their games all the time, and he was just coming off a really good freshman year. He's a little bit older. He's 20, but when he gets to the fourth round, why not? Why not take college kids later in the draft? You can leave them in school, and if they project, that's fine. Just to give you an example, I go to Quinnipiac. I'm an avid Quinnipiac fan, and I go to the games all the time. They have a kid, Matthew Pekka, who was a seventh-round pick by Tampa 4 years ago, and draft him late in the round, send him to Quinnipiac, and he's exploded to the point where he might not even sign with Tampa now, because if he goes the free agent route when he gets out of school, he's going to have so many offers. He'll probably have 15 to 20 offers what teams he can go play for. So I have no problem with using your later round picks on someone you can just fit in school, and if they project, that's great. If they look like they have a career, you get them out and you get them in the minors, and maybe you find a diamond in the rough. So I thought the Islanders had a very solid draft. They didn't have the best first day of free agency, which I was expecting, but they kind of surprised us today. So in the past week, you got to be pretty happy with what's going on right now.
Absolutely. We're going to switch gears now, talk a little bit of World Cup.
All right.
Yeah, so USA, unfortunately, is eliminated. Since the last time we talked, because we last talked to the from the Epic Wing against Ghana, unfortunately they tied to Portugal, which was the best game out of all the games. Then they got blitzkrieged, pun intended, against Germany. And then, unfortunately, the heartbreaking loss against Belgium yesterday. What was your take? They were 1-2 in this tournament. A lot of people were very pleased. I was not one of them. On people getting excited that they were able to advance, but they didn't even get a shot in the Germany game. So that kind of scared me off a little bit on what was going to happen yesterday. Take us through what you thought of the Team USA the last couple of games, since we didn't get to talk.
I mean, they got out of the group round. The group round was ridiculous. The amount of talent that they had to play against. Mm-hmm. It was a group of death. It was called that for a reason. The fact that they got out of that's an accomplishment. So basically, coming out of that, you're one of the best 16 teams in the world, probably towards the back end of that, somewhere between 12 and 16. I think that's about where they are in the world. That's about right. They can beat a lot of good teams, but there still is a wide gap. There still is a gap between them and the world powers. And Germany is one of the elite teams in the world. Portugal's kind of on the downside, and you can see the United States took it to them, and they should have won that game. But they ran up against Belgium, and Belgium is undefeated in the group stage. They've won 14 straight international matches now. They are loaded with young talent between the ages of 19 and 22, 23 years old. They featured arguably the best goalie in the world and the best center back in the world. And they're a team that had not played its best game yet. And they played their best game yesterday. And if it wasn't for Tim Howard, the United States probably would have lost 5 or 6 to 1 or 5. They could have easily given up 5 or 6 goals yesterday. The disparity in the world, the United States and the elite teams is getting closer. But where the problem is the center of the field. The midfield and the center backs in the United States are just not good enough when it comes to these other teams. And you could see it. You can see it now in those games where they get exposed. When Lukaku scored the second goal, he comes up against the last line of defense there. Actually, when he almost scored another goal, he was 1-on-3. He didn't think twice of taking the ball to the inside the box into the net because the guy's a giant. So he's so strong and fast. And then guys like Vincent Kompany, arguably the best center back in the world, the United States gets a little play. You think you have a step. He closes the gap. He makes the play. He carries the ball to midfield. And then he makes a perfect pass, but he keeps running, and he attacks the play, and then he almost scores a goal. And so I watched that little sequence where he went the entire length of the field in a blink of an eye, and it's like, yeah, we don't have that. We just don't have that. And that's mostly because our best athletes don't play soccer. I mean, Vincent Kompany is built like LeBron James. Lukaku is built like a Dwayne Wade. Could you imagine if we had guys like that on our team, if our midfield had guys like LaShawn McCoy? Our best athletes play other sports first. Now, that's changing, and I think that will continue to change, especially when these kids see how much money is available for playing throughout the world. And you can also watch the games are regularly available, the best leagues in the world. I think overall it was a successful World Cup. I think they overachieved a little bit. I mean, Howard played amazing, but they just aren't quite good enough yet in the midfield and in the back line to compete with the big boys. And obviously, when you're kind of thin and Altidore goes down, Dempsey has a broken nose, Jermaine Jones has a broken nose. There's, when you're kind of thin to begin with, there's only so much you can do. But I mean, they played their butts off. The effort was there, and the result wasn't. So I wouldn't be overly disappointed with this. But like I said, USA Soccer has to get some of the better athletes in this country playing the sport. So they can find some more midfielders, and they can get some center backs. There's a lot of 5'11" basketball players who think they can play in the NBA, but obviously they're too small. There's a lot of guys some guys playing baseball who can't hit but are still hanging on there and tremendous athletes. Those are the guys they need to get in their midfield. Those are the guys they need out in their wings. So the United States has to do a little bit better with their development of getting some of these kids to play soccer over other sports. It's getting there. And if you look in the past 20 years, it's leaps and bounds better than where it was in the late 80s, early 90s. But it's not there yet. At the same time, though, you tip your cap to Belgium. They're the better team. They're a team that can absolutely win the World Cup. I don't think there's any reason to hang your head after the way you played. So all in all, it's not there yet, but it's something to build off of.
Absolutely. With the remaining of the tournament, since USA is not in it, what team are you jumping on? Which bandwagon are you jumping on for the rest of the tournament?
I still like. I think if Belgium's playing at its top form, they're incredibly difficult to beat. I still like Belgium. I like the Netherlands. They're playing pretty good. I mean, it was a dogfight with Mexico, but I do like what they've been doing as well. I think, and I'm actually going to call an upset. I think Colombia is going to beat Brazil. Colombia is playing some of the best soccer in the world right now. Brazil's been kind of shaky, and you can kind of see the nerves of playing in front of their home crowd. I think this is ripe for a Colombian upset. Wow. Those are the teams I like the most right now. Other teams certainly have the talent to win. All the teams that left certainly have the talent, but there's some. The Germans have not looked great. Their back line is shaky. And France could take them out in the next round. They're playing pretty good. They've played well too, considering the disaster of their last World Cup. So it's definitely wide open. But the teams I'm keeping my eye on are Colombia, Netherlands, and Belgium.
Okay.
Do you think that this run by USA kind of brought a lot of people to like soccer a little bit more in the United States?
I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know. The ratings are fantastic, but the ratings it's not so much. Will these people watch the MLS? If you turn off the World Cup and put on the MLS, you probably will lose interest in the sport. It's not no offense to the MLS, but it's not the best league in the world. It's good. Like I said last time I was on, it's like really good minor league baseball. It's getting better, but it can never be on that level. I mean, Manchester United spent £60 million on 2 players last week. That's probably as much as most of the team payrolls combined in the MLS. Right. So, but more people are watching the better leagues. They're watching Premier League. They're watching Bundesliga and La Liga and Serie A. So the games are on at a pretty good time, especially on the weekend, like Saturday morning, 10 a.m. That's cool. You wake up, you watch soccer, then you watch some college football, and then you watch some Islanders hockey at night. That's a pretty good Saturday. And I think the thing too that helps soccer is it's a defined time. I know I can pencil in 2 hours of my time from 9 to 11 o'clock in the morning, and the game's over, and I can go about my day. It's not a 5.5-hour Yankees-Red Sox game, or it's not an NBA game where the last 5 minutes seem to take 2 hours. So I think that's something too. We have such a ADD when it comes to attention span in this country. That's something where, hey, I can watch this for 90 minutes or almost an hour 45. I can be out and about and move on to something else. So I definitely think you got some soccer fans from this. I don't expect, some people support their country. So when you're playing for something you're playing a sport that revolves your country, the people are going to watch. It'll have some carryover effect, but it's not going to be unseating any of the big sports in this country. It doesn't have to, though. It doesn't have to be. People who always criticize the sport. No one says that soccer needs to be as popular as football, and if you're delusional if you think that. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be a good product. And people, you like the sports you like. As I said, I don't care for other sports, but I'm never going to talk trash about another sport because to each their own. It's just like someone's music. I might not like country. I don't like country music, but I respect the genre of music. People are talented. I can't do that. I can't play a banjo or write my own song or, bring my own music. And so I'm not going to put down someone else's sport if they don't like it. I see that a lot, too, and it's annoying. And you also have your soccer snobs who don't want anyone who's not, doesn't know the game that well to like it. It's like at some point you are a new fan to the game. People have to learn it. Like the way I look at it, hockey and soccer are my two favorite sports. And if you want to watch them with me, that's awesome. But I'm never going to force them down. I'm never going to force you to try and watch it or put you down because you don't. So if you want to watch it, that's cool. If you don't, well, you don't know what you're missing because it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mentioned, I think this World Cup actually got me. What got me into watching the sport is one of two things. For the USA-Portugal game, I was actually away for the weekend, and a bunch of people, we watched it as a whole group of people, and one of the guys that was hyping it up the whole weekend for me, it was fun. We were able to break in. He was breaking me in throughout all the games before that game, so I was able to pretty much pick up the game as is. And the secondly was the people I have lunch with every day at work. We basically talk about the World Cup for the whole hour of lunch, 90% of the time. So I'm able to pick it up. Like one of the guys that I eat lunch with, he goes, "You watch hockey so much that you can pick up pretty much majority of the game without even know what's going on." And I happen to agree that he was pretty right with that. Because I could feel... It's not
that much different. You get the ball to the space. You use your speed on the wings. You use your size in the middle. You create scoring chances by creating odd man encounters in certain parts of the field, just like you would in the corners, like on a cycle or off a rush. It's about possessing the ball or possessing the puck and creating scoring chances. It's not that much different. The only tricky thing is offside. And once you get that down, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I just still need to get couple lingo words down here and there, but I'm excited. I'm gonna try to see how long I can prolong this excitement for. Maybe it's just because it's the World Cup, but I'm gonna try it, see as best as I can. But I've definitely been excited on how this year's World Cup has got me into a sport. And I used to bash soccer all the time. I was one of those thick-headed Americans. Oh, whatever, soccer's boring. But I'm actually enjoying it, and whenever I'm watching the game, I'm highly interested in it. So let's see. I'm highly interested to see what's going on. I'm jumping on the Brazil bandwagon. Actually, I just feel I know, like you mentioned, that they're a little shaky at the moment. You can feel it, but I think they've been they've been able to survive. I'm just waiting for that one breakout game because they are a solid team from what I've read and talked about and everything like that. So I would like to see them play Germany in the final. What would your dream final matchup would be?
I'm not sure how the bracket breaks down. Who's on the bottom of the bracket? I know you have France and Germany, but who if they win, what matchup do they play? Who do they play if they win that bracket? Do you have it in front of you?
No, we gotta
have it. In 1 second, we will.
Yeah, I'm just saying if I had a dream matchup, so it might not be possible right now.
Okay, you want the winner of the France?
Yeah, what's the bottom of the? Who play the winner of the France-Germany game? Who do they play?
The winner of the Brazil-Colombia game.
Okay.
Wow, that's amazing semifinal matchups you could have.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go with. I think a France-Belgium final would be amazing.
Wow.
Or a France-Holland, Netherlands final would be whatever. They have two names. Never trust the country with two names. But I think that would be really interesting. I think Brazil against any of those teams would be really good. But just the fact that you have France and Belgium, which are neighbors, I think that would be really, really cool. Or even Germany, Belgium. Right? That would be really cool too.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to see what the rest of these teams have to offer, since they are world power teams, the majority of these teams. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I might be around to watch the Brazil game on Friday, but
it was funny because we were watching. I was with the MLB Network last night, and we were watching the game with all the guys there. And like I got mad at Michael Bradley just made like a stupid play, which was a theme of the whole World Cup. But I just got mad, and I'm like, and I look at Cliff Floyd, and I just said, I'm like, this is why. I go, this is why they beat us. He's like, what do you mean? I go, our players play for the Galaxy, and they play for the Red Bulls. He's like, well, who do their players play for? I go, Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester City, Roma, Barcelona. He's like, oh, yeah. I got that.
Must be nice watching soccer games with Cliff Floyd, right, Steve?
I tailgated with Cliff Floyd at the Giant game. That one time.
For 2 seconds.
But yeah, it's there's definitely there's so many good teams left in the World Cup. You pretty much almost have the best right now. So it's you got all 8 group winners left. It's going to be an interesting finish, and all these games are going to be really good to watch. I don't think you're going to get any sleepers, snoozers left in here. This is going to be pretty fun.
I'm excited. Okay, one quick rule that I need some clearing up with. So in overtime, so they get 2 15-minute periods? Correct? Okay, so it's wrong time.
Yeah, 2 15-minute halves. You play 30 minutes, 15 minutes each.
Okay, sorry about that. 2 15-minute halves. And then if it's those, so that if the 30 minutes elapse, then they go shoot out. What is it, best of 3?
Yeah, 5.
Best of 5, regardless. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I was slightly confused with that yesterday.
And one more thing, if you're looking to pick up the sport and keep following it, I would recommend the Premier League starts in like 6 weeks.
Okay.
So I would if you're gonna. That's what I say to people. If you really like the sport and you want to keep following it, watch the best.
All right. So
watch
since you're
the best league in the world. So pick your own. Maybe you'll find the team calls you. You don't choose the team. The team chooses you. Although the only right answer is Arsenal. But with that being said, you choose. The team will choose you that you like. But if you start watching Premier League and you get really into it, and then you watch the MLS, it might not be much of a disparity. Because you'll be like, okay, you watch that almost like as a secondary thing. So it's funny because I say to people, like, you have like some of these fantastic players. Like there's a couple of great. Well, here's an example. Tim Howard is an amazing goalie. Correct.
Former Metro star.
Lukaku for Belgium's one of the finest young players in the world. They're teammates in the Premier League on Everton.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you have some of the best players. Like I'm trying to think of some of the other guys playing in the tournament, but Suarez and guys like Sturridge on England, who was a fantastic player, are teammates. It's almost like you have the best players from all the world that you're seeing in the World Cup play together on these teams. So it's like there's 4 Arsenal players on Germany, there's 3 Arsenal players on France. And these guys are teammates as soon as this thing's over, so it's pretty cool.
It's really like the hockey Olympics.
Absolutely, like how you had like all like the Red Wings, you have 3 Swedes, 2 Russians, a couple Americans, and all of a sudden it's over and they're all teammates again.
Absolutely.
So, Dan Doodles. 78.
Dan Doodles 78 on Twitter. HockeyBuzz.com.
But before we forget.
Podcast.
Yeah. By the way, that was one of the funniest things I saw on your Instagram today with Tim Howard.
Oh, that was really good. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's really funny.
When I saw that,
the hashtag was things Howard can save. It's pretty funny. You guys check it out.
Oh man, I literally laughed out loud when I saw that, especially with the Janet Jackson and the other stuff. So that was really funny. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
Dan Noodles 78. on Instagram as well. So make sure you follow him there.
Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, all the same name.
All the same name. Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Yep.
SND Podcast is in no way associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Hockey League or any of its affiliates.
Welcome back to the S&D Podcast. Just listened to more Division 1.1 with The Vengeance is this week's song. Once again, thanks to Dan for coming on, talk a little Islanders hockey, a little NHL hockey overall, and the World Cup. It was a very good segment, I thought. It's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen for the rest of the World Cup and who's going to reign supreme for the next 4 years, which country is going to hold that key coveted prize. I'm excited about that. We didn't get to talk about much Mets and Yankees. Unfortunately, they're both really, really slumping right now. The Yankees got swept by the Tampa Rays this week, and that was a very ugly series with that. And unfortunately, they lost 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox for that. So they only won 1 game out of 6 in the last homestand for the Yankees. And with the Mets, they are slowly declining to that normal mid-July case. I know it's July 2nd, but it's slowly reaching its apex of ending really quickly. So it's really going to be interesting who the Mets are going to be able to get rid of. Try to get a couple more pieces for the future.
10 days, Dan.
10 days.
Then we'll decide.
10 days, yeah. I don't know why, what difference 10 days are going to make. I know they can go on a hot streak, but let's be real. Before this hot streak, if they were to go on one, let's be real. Honestly, either way, we're not making the playoffs unless some miracle happens. The whole division pretty much loses their ace pitcher and their all-star pitcher at the same time. So honestly, I'm not being realistic about that. People who, they just have to say it, but let's be real. They know what team they have, and they have to see it every day. I would want to trade something and figure something out with that. Hopefully a bet. We have enough pitching, enough young pitching, that we can find a way to get a nice, solid, everyday, all-star bat or some sort like that. So let's see what happens with that, of course. So, I don't know. That's that. We also, we didn't really get to talk about the Knicks and Nets going on. Jason Kidd, what about that? That was a crazy story. It just goes to show you how selfish and egomaniac that Jason Kidd is. I don't think he really earned the right to be able to do that, but he thinks he can do whatever he wants. I'm happy for the Nets to stay their ground and get a couple of draft picks out of it. It's just a shame, you know. I don't know.
It's gross. Like, what has Jason Kidd done to earn the right to choose? He doesn't want to be someplace anymore. Doc Rivers, I understood.
Yeah, Doc Rivers went to the finals twice. And
went
honestly,
to Game 7 twice.
Yeah, exactly. He went to Game 7 twice. He was a game away from winning back-to-back championships. Or, hey, if you split 2 NBA Finals and they're both Game 7s, you had a shot of winning 2 in a row. Either way you look at it.
Right.
So, and they barely got a first-round pick out of that. So that just goes to show you, who are you? And secondly, why the living hell would you want to go to the Milwaukee Bucks? They're arguably one of the worst franchises in all of pro
They
sport.
were just recently bought by somebody. They do have a new owner now.
Of course.
So I see that. And also, they're giving him control. Like Mark Jackson had control in Golden State.
Yes.
He wanted control in Brooklyn. They were not giving him control. He wants to basically he now gets to go there.
You're that much of an egomaniac though that you need
take
all
Parker
that
and make his team. Oh, that's how you make a name in the NBA though. Look at how Phil made his name. He built the team that he played with. But he also had Jordan and Kobe.
Phil didn't have full power. It just happened that he was on those teams that coached those teams that had Jordan and Kobe and Shaq and all those guys that were able to relieve a lot of pressure off of him. So I don't really know what's going on with the whole J Kidd thing. Something fishy came up. Oh, it is what it is. Once again to Dan for coming on tonight. It was a very good segment. Hope everybody enjoyed. Be sure to check out our website, SNDSportsblog.com. If you haven't signed up for our monthly newsletter, I would recommend you do so. We tend to pick the 3 latest articles that we are about to post or just posted recently for you guys to check out. So be there, take a look, and comment and anything. Please hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. You have our And Instagram as well. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll catch you soon.
You guys next week.